Welcome to WTF Fantasy Football Gym Day. Of course, Brian Drake and Tony Cincotta here for the next hour or so. We don't keep one of these clocks that we punch in and we punch out. Jim, I don't think I've worked at least in 25 years, maybe 30 years, and anywhere you had to punch in and punch out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I went from a corporate job that I never had to punch in, punch out to doing fantasy football. So that's never been a part of my life. Even when I was a kid, I never had a job. I don't think I ever had a job where I had to punch in and punch out ever.
How about you, Brian? You a puncher?
I work in sales in my real life, and it's tremendous. If I ever saw 20 hours a week, I don't know what I would do. So, no, I kind of come and go as I please, which is great when you have kids. I can get my daughter and son on the bus every morning and then kind of, get a Red Bull and start my day.
Now, we were talking a little DFS before the show, and I was telling you guys I went with Kansas City last week as they played the Oakland Raiders, and I cashed despite some poor performances because of Phillip Lindsay and Travis Kelce. But I got to ask you, first off, Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of people talking about them. We all know the situation with Spencer Ware now in the backfield, Kareem Hunt gone. But, Jim, before that, did you think in allowing 33 points to the Raiders?
Actually, Tony, I totally lost what you said. So could you ask that again?
You think they're real, the play like them, but they allowed 33 points. Defense has been a problem all along.
Oh yeah, the defense has absolutely been a problem. There's no doubt about it. They, one of the worst in the league, giving up a ton to pretty much every position. 30th against the quarterback, 31st against running back, 17th against the wide receiver, but 31st against tight ends. This is all in PPR points allowed. So definitely giving up some points. Defense usually plays a little better at home. And, the problem here is you got a quarterback in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, who, he can run very well, but he still has a lot to learn as a passer. And really, we haven't seen much out of him yet as, an efficient passer, not even close to that. And now we're asking him to go against a Kansas City team in Kansas City. If they get up big early, the one thing that he can't do, he doesn't have the tools to bring them back.
What's your thoughts on the Chiefs? Are they for real with that defense?
Well, are they for real? Yes, because they can score so many points. Is their defense any good? No. So that's why this week's game is so fascinating to me, because they have the blueprint to keep them off the field. How do you beat a team with a fantastic offense? You don't let them see the field. People would do that for years. They tried to do it to Tom Brady and these greatest show on turf type teams. Just let Lamar just run and run and run and have 7-8 minute drives, and then pray you can get one. Baltimore's defense is very good, so they're going to be able to get a few stops. Just keep the chains moving, keep the clock moving. You're right, though, Jim. If they fall behind, can this kid bring them back? I don't see it at all. But it'd be an interesting chess match.
This gets to my second point, and this is totally off script, and we're only 4 minutes in, and that's how things roll on WTF Fantasy. I am not in favor of Drew Brees winning Rookie Most Valuable Player. I think they've had a great year. I think Drew Brees has had a great year. I look at the two running backs, and I know one of them missed the first 4 games. I look at that defense. I think Mahomes is clearly the most valuable player in this league.
I love that. That's a great call. Why not? He's the most exciting player in the game. He's turned the team around. They're putting up insane numbers. And this is going to lead to something I posted on Twitter we'll get to next about Mahomes, but I totally agree. Why not? He's the best player currently going and the most exciting product you have in the NFL. I love it.
I can't argue any of those points. 41 freaking passing touchdowns already, well over 4,000 passing yards already. The team is winning consistently. I can't fault that at all. He would definitely be my choice right now. I know Breeze has had a great season as well, but so is Locke, and there's a few other guys that have had great seasons. But nobody tops Mahomes at this point.
Let me ask you guys this. Where does Patrick Mahomes fall next season in redraft?
You're going to have people jumping on him like they do now with Aaron Rodgers in place of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to be the guy, the first quarterback off the board next year. Find it hard to believe, anything other would happen. Very hard to trust Aaron Rodgers at this point as the first quarterback off the board. I know he's a great quarterback, but unless this offense makes a major change, which hopefully it should with McCarthy finally done, but unless it really does make a major change and these rookie, wide receivers really start coming into their own, I think Mahomes has to be, the first quarterback off the board.
I think it's a good point. I was going to say it depends on who's the coach, right? Who the head coach becomes. But that being said, I don't see an offensive genius out there like any more than Mike McCarthy. I think a lot of people, look at all the guys that could possibly be out there. I don't see somebody coming in. If a Chip Kelly came in or someone with, a crazy offense back in the day, a Mike Martz, I would think maybe Aaron Rodgers. But Jim's right. They just don't have the wide receivers anymore.
This kid is basically just scratching the surface. It's his first year starting for Kansas City. He's got insane weapons. Who knows? Maybe they even land Le'Veon Bell in the offseason. I was talking to a guy, a DFS guy this week, and I was talking to him about this same question. And he said, depending on my scoring, if this kid is still humming along, he goes, I'll take him in the first round. I don't care. He goes, who else is going to put up these kind of points? And I know it's crazy. You never want to take a quarterback that early because he'll never repeat these numbers. But what if he does?
Look, I lost all doubts about Mahomes. Look, coming into the season, we knew he was going to be a gunslinger. But usually with that gunslinger comes a guy that throws a lot of interceptions. Just usually, what happens. We always saw that with Brett Favre. And, as long as he kept slinging the ball down the field and scoring too, we gave up the interceptions without worry. But he's got 41 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. They've come in a couple of clump games. Outside of that, he's been exceptionally good. But early in the season, I don't remember which week it was, but I lost all doubt about him. And I said this earlier on another show, but when he was rushing around in the pocket and he ended up switching hands with the ball, putting it in his left hand and throwing a pass with his left hand, I lost all doubts about Pat Mahomes. He'll do anything to win.
I'll tell you what, watching Lamar Jackson makes you appreciate Pat Mahomes because Mahomes runs around in the back to throw the ball first. He's not looking to run, even though he does run and he gets rushing yards, where we've got a guy like Jackson who every time runs anytime he can. So it's great there. I got asked today about the Kareem Hunt situation, how much we downgraded the Kansas City running back situation. Jim, I look at it like this. If Kareem Hunt was a 10 for you before and you had Spencer and you get Spencer Ware, I think it goes up a 7 or an 8. Here's the thing. It's the running back position, right? You're in fantasy football playoffs. You got a gift and you're going to cash it in, but it's not quite going to be Kareem Hunt. And they probably will use 2 backs in that backfield.
At least 2. I definitely think they'll get Damian Williams involved. And now with the signing of Charkandrick West, another running back that knows the offense, and the offense knows him, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to find ways to use all 3 of these guys. I thought, Ware was going to be a great play last week. Luckily, he got you to the double digits with the touchdown. So that worked okay. But, definitely not the amount of touches we thought. I definitely have concern when Andy Reid comes right out and says he wants to use a committee, and it's something he's done in the past. You got to believe the man.
Take a look at the schedule they have too.
Right, and the schedule.
Right, Charkandrick West was catching passes last year with Hunt there.
Yeah, and I've been an Andy Reid fan as long as he's been a coach. I'm an Eagles fan, obviously, so I've seen him for years and years and years. He will go on long stretches where he forgets the running back is even on the team. And I think we saw that early in the season. If you remember, Kareem Hunt owners were crying the blues because the guy's not scoring touchdowns. He's not getting carries, blah, blah, blah. I can totally see that happening again where we're just going to put everything on Patrick Mahomes' arm now. And would that be a bad thing for fantasy? Nah, not really, because he's going to feed all these other weapons out there. But like I mentioned, look at the schedule. They got Baltimore this week. That's no cakewalk at all. Then you've got the Chargers and then at the Seahawks in the fantasy Super Bowl. So no gimmies there at all for a running back or a quarterback or receiver. Those are great defenses.
True, but you're not sitting Pat Mahomes for any of them.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, he's matchup proof. He's shown it. The wide receivers become a little sketchy at that point. I mean, look what Hill did last week. and the running backs are definitely a concern with that. But Mahomes will get his.
All right, before we move on from the Kansas City Chiefs, last and final question, because you guys seem two very astute guys.
Are you looking at the guy behind me?
Jim, how long would you suspend Kareem Hunt for?
Man, we don't really know all the details. The thing with the woman should be 6 games. That's what's in the CBA. Should be 6 games. Domestic violence, 6 games. The other 2 incidents, we don't really know enough of yet to really say. But, it sounds like the league wants to suspend him for more than the 6 games. And if they want to, they'll find a way to do that.
It's funny because the NFL didn't care at all about this until the video was released. Now, all of a sudden, they want to get on their high horse and say, we're going to suspend this guy for 1 billion games. Where the hell were you when you knew this happened a year ago? And you've had other guys out there who've done terrible things nobody cared about, but it all goes back to this in the NFL. Owners don't care about fans. Owners care about money, and they care about somewhat winning. Mostly it's money. And if this didn't impact their bottom line and nobody ever found out about it, you would never have heard about it. He would never have got suspended. But now they did. TMZ came out with it. Kudos to them. He'll definitely get 6 games. If he even plays again in the NFL, that's probably should be the next question.
Well, I answered that question today. He definitely plays in the NFL, and here's why I'm going to say that. Ray Rice didn't, right? And that's what we all look back and the same thing. Ray Rice was done, though. He was right at the end of the career. Kareem Hunt still could play one of the top backs in the argument in the league. We just looked to what happened in San Francisco, where the guy gets 2 domestic abuses in the same calendar year, and they take him off the waiver wire.
Yeah, really.
So Kareem Hunt's going to play. Kareem Hunt, though, I think will miss all of 2019. I think he's going to get it really handed to him because of the 2 other incidents that are out there that people don't know about. Because the Chiefs asked him about this prior to this, and he didn't let them know exactly what happened. And, Jim, it's always the cover-up, not the crime, that puts you away.
Yeah, well, right. Really what it came down to is that Kansas City got the answer from Hunt at the time that, it wasn't any big deal, and they were okay with that because that didn't interfere with anybody's plans. And, I find it very hard to believe that the team, the NFL, nobody could get this video before now. Just, unbelievable to me. TMZ got it. They paid somebody off. I'm sure the NFL could have gotten it in, much easier if they really tried.
The Marriott is the official partner of the NFL, the official hotel partner. You tell me you can't hold that over their heads and get something? It's a joke. You don't get
it. For all the political people out there, Bob Mueller needs to hire TMZ, and then this probe would have been done years ago for all the political people out there. Next up, the Denver Broncos, Emanuel Sanders, torn Achilles. They already got rid of Demaryius Thomas. Who steps up next, Jim? I got the answer. I won't share it yet, but my answer is going to be no one. Who do you got, Jim?
Well, actually, I don't know if anybody steps up, and nobody I would count on in Week 14, so take this with a grain of salt. But I really want to see what Deshaun Hamilton can do given the chance. I like this kid. He's no superstar. He's no burner, but he's a good, steady player and runs good routes. Has a little problem with getting off the press at the line of scrimmage. If he can get past that, I'd really like to see what he can do on the field. But, outside of that, I don't know if I trust Sutton. Again, rookie wide receiver is so hard to be consistent week in, week out. Now he's the number 1 going up against the top defenders. I don't know if I trust any of that this week.
Well, what about Matt LaCoste, the tight end, Tony? Deshaun Hamilton's a kid
is that the same Matt LaCoste that everybody loved last week in DFS that got 0 targets? That one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the same one?
Same guy. So you're going to have LaCoste out there. You're going to have Deshaun Hamilton kicking into the slot. And then they got this kid, Tim Patrick, who actually has been getting some snaps the past few weeks. Are any of them going to do anything? Probably not. And at this point in the season, I don't think anybody can risk putting one of these time bombs in their lineup that, like you said, LaCoste could go get you a 0. So really, for our purposes, you can't touch any of these guys in Denver.
It might be be a nice, punch play in, a GPP because he could be involved. If the wide receivers aren't getting open, Lacoste might be the guy that benefits the most. But, outside of that, you can't really make that play in a season-long league.
I like the Lacoste pick because I like the foundation that you get there. So last year, I nailed Tyler Kroft for people, right? It wasn't because I think Kroft was a great player. It's a Bengals offense that didn't have a number 2 wide receiver at that point, and they always hit the tight end, especially the goal line. So Kroft stepped into that role. A lot of times you can plug and play players. Jeff Kierman, I don't think was going to the Hall of Fame, Jim Day, and he was getting targeted. So I don't think it's a bad move on Lacoste. I don't think it's going to get me a fantasy championship, though.
And that's my concern as well. But he could. Hey, look, like I said, he could be a decent punt play in a GPP where you want to, have somebody who's very not owned.
You want to talk low ownership?
Teams, yeah.
After last week's goose egg, the guy's got 0 ownership.
Yeah, he's not going to have any ownership this week, and that's why he makes a great punt play.
And he gets the 49ers.
And he gets the 49ers, which is always nice.
Absolutely. Now, Jim Day put together a list of all-stars here and asked, which do you like more in Week 14? So, people, get your number 2 pencils out, and here's the question. Justin Jackson.
Let's see we'll ask the chat room here. We got a bunch of people in the chat room. Guys, listen up. Answer this question in the chat room as well.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong, we're going to tell you about it. So don't screw up, chat room. You ready? Justin Jackson is your first choice. Choice number 2, Jeremy Wilson. Choice number 3, Chase Edmonds, and Oakland running back Jalen Richard. So it's Justin Jackson, Jeremy Wilson, Chase Edmonds, Jalen Richard.
I screwed that up. It's Jeffrey Wilson. Told you I'm tired.
Yeah. Geez. So I just read it, Jim. You could have wrote anything here, and I would have read it. You put Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I would have said it. Brian,
I definitely take Rudolph this week.
Brian, the chat room's answering that. Brian, who do you have?
I like Jeffrey Wilson. I actually mentioned him last week on my Tuesday Night Hustle show. Nobody in America is talking about this guy. Matt Breida's made of glass, and here comes this guy who's talented. And I believe he went to the University of North Texas, the same as Dwayne, my co-host there. So he's going to get not only all of the rushes, but he's going to catch a bunch of balls. And he showed it this past week. I would take him number 1, and I would take Justin Jackson number 2. I think Jackson's going to have kind of a shorter leash because he's got Eckler there, and Gordon's going to come back in a week or two. So I'd put all the fab money I got left on Jeffrey Wilson.
I like that call. I actually like Wilson too, to a point. Man, I'd like him a lot better if he wasn't playing a Denver defense that's been so good against the run lately. But I'm hoping that he does get involved in the passing game, and I think he will. And that's the only reason I'll take him over Jackson at that point. I like Jackson. I like his matchup this week. I think he has a good game. I actually think both of those running backs have good games this week for the Rams. For the Chargers. I think Eckler and Jackson can put up good numbers, but I do have Wilson slightly ahead, hoping they get him involved in the passing game and he catches 4 or 5 balls.
He hit 9 targets last week.
He did, absolutely. I love that. And I'll be true. I wasn't one of them looking at him. I'll be honest. I wasn't looking at him at all.
I'll tell you, it's interesting when you get to this time of year and you have certain leagues that have pickups in the playoffs and certain leagues that don't. Remember how you feel about this, folks. When you're doing your leagues for next year, this is the time to vote on it before the season begins. If you don't like it, remember it, and then go vote on it as a league next year. Jim, how do you feel about picking pickups in the playoffs?
I don't mind it as long as it's the teams that are only involved in the playoffs allowed to do it. If teams are out of the playoffs, they aren't allowed to make pickups. I like that. Otherwise, because with all the injuries and stuff that do happen, even in the playoffs, you need to be able to make moves. I hate losing because of attrition. So let's face it. At this point, you're not going to get great waiver wire pickups anyway, for the most part. I still think they should be open, but only open to the teams in the playoffs.
Brian, your thoughts?
I'm actually the commissioner of a league where we made this rule, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And with a lot of these sites, you can go in as a commissioner and just physically lock out teams. So I do that. If you don't make the playoffs, you're locked out. Then what I do is once you are eliminated from winning money, meaning if you get knocked out this weekend, you're not going to win any money, I lock that team too. There's no reason a team playing in the 5th and 6th place game should be adding guys next week also. So if you're not playing for that first place pot, or if you have 3rd place money, no, if you're not playing for cash, screw you. You can't win.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That works.
That works. Jim, how about the chat room? Who did the chat room got at running back?
Well, let's see. We got Mendo likes Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Richard. Armando and Sean Willis like Jackson. Gregory and Miley like Jeffrey Wilson. An Effigy of Chaos goes, I'll go Jackson. Man, I love that name, Effigy of Chaos. I might have
There's a hard rock band for you, Jim.
Yeah, really. I might have to use that as a fantasy team name next year. I love that, Effigy of Chaos. Excellent.
Based on Jim reading those names, it looks like this is the podcast of the United Nations, Jim. We should be proud of that.
Hey, these are all great guys. A lot of them hang out at the Frenzy every day and talk or on Twitter with me. So I appreciate them all coming out. And I know if I ask, they'll all give us a thumbs up on YouTube. We appreciate it, guys. And we definitely like you coming out and listening to us. And, ask questions. We'll definitely answer them for you on the air.
And we got another question for you guys in the chat room, so get ready. Here we come with question number 2 and the interactive part of the show. Gus Edwards, Josh Allen, or Doug Martin? Gus Edwards, Josh Allen, or
did I write? Man, I really was tired this morning. Holy crap!
Josh Adams. Yeah, I keep reading it too. Josh Adams and Doug Martin. But just to be clear, you did right.
I'm going to get some sleep after tonight.
Josh Allen's in our next question, folks, and it's the real Josh Allen. So this one's Josh Adams. So Gus Edwards, Josh Adams, and Doug Martin. I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you about these things right now. After watching Patrick Lindsay and Josh Adams play football, the scouting departments in the NFL are terrible, and they better go back to college and figure out how to draft that those 2 kids weren't drafted.
Yeah, it's amazing. Playing good football right now. And Lindsey, of course, he's been playing great all year, just taking over this offense for them. Been the main cog for them, and just unbelievable. Little guy, tiny guy, doesn't get drafted, and just has been an amazing player all year. He's going to be interesting to see where people draft next year. I'm thinking maybe 2nd round, but man, it's going to be interesting to see where people go with him. But out of this group, I mean, Edwards is still a little banged up, but he came in and played well last week. I don't know. It's a real tough choice for me. That's why I put it up there. I wanted to see what you guys thought, but Doug Martin should be involved in that too. I mean, he lost some touches last week because of a fumble, but then all 3 of the running backs lost fumbles, and then of course they go out and sign C.J. Anderson, so that throws another mix in there. But Martin was actually running well before the fumble. Scored a couple of touchdowns the last couple of weeks. So I was really, starting to think that maybe he was trying to make a run, and then the fumble and on the bench, and now they bring in C.J. Anderson. Who knows what the hell's going on in Oakland? Because of that, I think I got to go with. I want to say Josh Adams, but Dallas is playing so good. I'm going to go with Gus Edwards.
I'm gonna go Josh Adams, and I'm not confident in that. And one of the reasons is I kind of wonder with the C.J. Anderson acquisition if Doug Martin's a little banged up in this game here. And I don't feel sexy about going Doug Martin, but I think they get in the end zone, and I think Josh Adams has the best ability to get to the end zone out of this group, and that's why I'm going with him, Brian.
Yeah, Doug Martin's dealing with a slight knee injury. Josh Adams, a new injury popped up for him. He's got a shoulder with some other things going on. And Gus Edwards, obviously, with the ankle. So the problem is none of these guys are going to help you in a PPR, really. I guess Adams might be the best of all those guys, and he's showing a propensity to score. But like you said, he's got a tough matchup. I worry with Gus that if they fall behind with Kansas City, as we mentioned before, he's going to be totally off the radar because he's just going to be, he's not going to be in the game. They're not going to throw the ball to him at all. Looking at that Doug Martin thing, they had 3 pretty good young running backs on that roster. why are you adding CJ Anderson with 3 weeks to go in a lost season? So that's got to perk up the ears a little bit to say there's something wrong here.
Right. Something's not right. Exactly.
So but,
that's what I keep coming back to. But man, Dallas has really been good against the run lately, and that's what scares me about Adams. I mean, if he was a pass catching back as well, I'd like that a little more. But look, they got Corey Clement a little more involved last week. You got Darren Sproles back. We know they love, Peterson loves to use a committee. So that scares me a little bit. And then when you add in the fact that Dallas at home, who over the last 5 weeks has been 5th against opposing running backs in PPR points allowed, 8th on the season. They've only given up 5 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns to the position on the year. So 5 rushing touchdowns in 12 games doesn't lend me to a lot of, real good feeling of Josh Adams getting in the end zone.
I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm not a Cowboys hater. So, I mean, I don't really care about them either way. But I got to tell you, Jerry Jones gives you a lot of reasons to be annoyed. But I was more annoyed with Jerry Jones this week than ever before. I don't understand how the owner, who's a 70-year-old guy that likes to tip the bottle every once in a while, he's old school and he's got the whiskey in his desk at work. How does he come out and say that Sean Lee will get his job back despite Leighton Vander Esch's emergence? What other NFL team do you ask the owner that question and get an answer?
He's also the GM.
Right.
Well, his son is actually, right, the GM?
No, his son is the president.
Oh, yes, the president and GM. Yeah, this team annoys the shit out of me. The more and more I think about it. And that's why you don't win.
Hey, as a fan of an NFC East team, I love that the Cowboys are doing what they're doing because it means they're going to give the old clapper there an extension. And I love that the Giants think that Eli's still got a few more years left in him.
Shut up, you.
Let's keep it going, folks.
If Eli's back next year, I'm done. I am so done. I just can't do it. Just can't do it. I still want to see Kyle Lauletta right now. Screw it.
I'm going to tell you guys the biggest misjudgment in sports history, which hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, for all the young people out there, were traded for each other on draft day, for all the youngsters out there. So Phil Rivers was traded for Eli Manning. Eli Manning's won 2 Super Bowls. Phillip Rivers has had a good career and never won a Super Bowl. When they retire, 5 years after they retire, Eli Manning's going to be the Hall of Fame, and Phillip Rivers is not. And Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback. That's going to happen, Jim. Put it in stone. And it's insane to me.
I totally 100% agree with you. Eli's absolutely going to get in the Hall. He's got a lot of reasons to. Look, I don't like the guy, but he's done well, and he's played big in big games. I mean, both times he took down the Patriots, we were mad underdogs in both games, and he played strong. I mean, look, just thinking back to the first one with the helmet catch. Everybody makes such a big deal about the catch, and it was a great catch, especially with Rodney Harrison draped all over him. But looking back at that play, and Eli was all wrapped up by the defenders behind the line of scrimmage, and he pulled away from them to make the throw. Eli never does that. So he's played big in big games. You don't get to be Super Bowl MVP without having, a great game and playing well. I get that. But it's just the week-to-week inconsistency for me that makes me nuts. It just makes me nuts. 1 week, he looks like the best quarterback in the league. Every pass is right where it has to be, zipped on a line, all that. The next week, they come fluttering out of his hands like little butterflies all over the little place, and you never know where they're going to go. That's what makes me crazy about Eli.
Brian, you care to chime in?
Well, you're dead on with what you're talking about. Plus, he played in San Diego for his whole career, and it doesn't get much sleepier in terms of the NFL than somebody playing there. But how about him and 9 kids? And the wife looks phenomenal. God bless her. 9 kids. Either he hates being, hates being home, or he's like, all right, I'm going to stay another season. Man. I'm not going home with these 9 kids. I keep making them, but I ain't hanging out with them.
And that's one wife, people out there.
Yeah, really. He's not talking about all his different baby mamas.
Yes. I want to clear that up for everybody. He actually has one wife.
Hey, God bless him. It's not like he doesn't have the money to afford be able to take care of them all, and since they have the means, why not? If they want a big family, all the more power to them.
She's the MVP of the league.
Yeah.
And just
MVP
to clear up for people though, Jim might be honest on about Phil Rivers not staying home. Phil Rivers and his family have not moved from the San Diego area, and he drives to practice every day, almost 2 hours, and watches film in the car as he has a driver there. So it's 2 hours each way, Jim. So you might be onto something.
Yeah, well, that was Brian, but yeah, it might be.
Oh.
Who knows? Well, we got a couple of questions in the chat room, so I want to get to them before we forget. Constantine, he wants to know, pick in a PPR, pick 2 flex spots. Mixon, Boyd, Sony Michel, or Josh Gordon. 2 in a PPR. And Tony, which way would you go with that?
I'm going with who was the first player you mentioned?
Mixon.
No, who's the next guy?
Mixon, and then Boyd, Michel, and Gordon.
I'm going with Boyd being the last guy standing in that offense, and Michel because Mixon a little banged up there. If I got favorable news a little later in the week, I would go Michel and Mixon. But I'm going to go to Boyd and Sonny Michel with what we know right now.
How about you, Brian?
That's interesting. I'd like to lean both running backs just because I enjoy putting running backs in the flex. But if Mixon's hurt, I might just double up on the Patriots and put Gordon there. He's scoring. He's getting opportunities. Gronk basically is dead. So if Mixon can't go or he's limited, then maybe go double Patriots. Otherwise, I'm going to split it up and give me both running backs. I can't go Boyd. I can't put him in there right now.
Yeah, especially in this matchup, I don't like them. Going up against the Chargers, they've been damn good against opposing wide receivers and quarterbacks. I think they're just going to be all over Driscoll in this one. I don't think he's going to have much time to throw at all. So
double-digit targets, though. Double-digit targets.
Yeah, I don't know if he even gets that time this week. I think they're all over him, just stacking the box against him all game. I just don't know if he's going to have that opportunity this week. For me, look, I expect Mixon to play. If Mixon plays, I'm going with Mixon because the one thing you can do against the Chargers is run on him. So if Mixon plays, I'm going with Mixon. He's been playing too well all year to sit him. Michel, man, after last week, you got to be a little concerned with Michel just for the fact that they gave the freaking goal line carries to James Devlin. And again,
James Devlin, you had Rex Burkhead get a big first down. Jim, I'm hoping they're not going back that way. Sonny Michel showed he's clearly the most talented back, but they got 42 running backs again all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Burkhead. Everybody keeps bringing up Burkhead. I'm telling everybody right now, I don't care about Burkhead. Stop bringing up Burkhead to me. If it's Burkhead or anybody else, I'm taking anybody else. Burkhead doesn't have any fantasy value to me. I don't think he has any fantasy value for the rest of the year. All it does is just throw a little bit more fade into all the other running backs, just like it's always been in New England. Once again, Bill Belichick screws us with his running backs. He finally gets us starting to feel good about now we have Michel and we have White, and that's good. That's all we get. And then what happens? You bring Burkhead back. All of a sudden, the fullback is getting the goal line plunges.
And don't forget Cordarrelle Patterson.
And well, he was there when Michel was out. So it's just. Once again, Bill Belichick and his conspiracy against fantasy footballers. I swear to God, he has one.
I got one more question about Mixon for you guys. Eddie, what about with the 14-point spread in this game?
Yeah, that's I think they covered. I think they covered. I mean, I absolutely think I like the Chargers laying the 14 at home. I also think that the score is going to go over. I think the Chargers got a chance to score 40 in this one. Bengals defense is tough.
I totally agree. You know what? You don't want to make a living betting giving 14 points in NFL, but I think at this time of year, you see a lot of these big point spreads, and you can cash on these. So go ahead, people. What else we got in the chat room, Jim?
Okay, next question up is, let's see. Armando wants to know half-point PPR. Pick one between Hilton and Woods. Hilton is going up against the Texans, and Woods going up against the Bears.
I'm going with Robert Woods as opposed to Icky Woods back in the day, sticking with that Bengals theme. Woods has been the one consistent option in that Rams offense all season long. I think it's going to be a good. I think this game will be a game that we score some points. Mitchell Trubisky looks like he'll be back in the helm at the quarterback position. I'm going Robert Woods.
How about you, Bri?
I think I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton on this one. I actually own Robert Woods in a few leagues, and he's disappointed me. Not that he's not doing well, but it's just kind of, it's just there, you know? It's like, hey, I'm going to get you 8 to 10 points. It's never a blow-up game. And that's T.Y. Hilton can give you a blow-up game. He didn't last week. You know, Jalen Ramsey really locked him down, but he's with no Jack Doyle. It's just him and Ebron. That's it. So he's going to get peppered with targets. And if Luck stays playing like Luck has been this year, I think he can get you that big week that'll move you on to the semis.
I do like Luck to bounce back, no doubt about it. And I do like Hilton this week. But, man, Wood's been so damn consistent. You know, he doesn't have those big blowout games, I grant you. But he also doesn't have the low games that we've seen Hilton have. And I, you know, the one thing we always knew with Goff is there are going to be games where he doesn't have to throw a lot just for the fact of he's got Gurley, and Gurley goes off at times, and Goff doesn't have to throw a lot once they get out to big leads. I don't really think they're going to have that luxury this week. They're going to have to fight for every inch this week, and I think he's going to have to throw a ton. I think I go Woods here. It's close, but I think I go Woods. I mean, I get what you're saying, Brian, about the upside. You want that big game. But, man, that other part, the other side of that coin scares me a lot more. I just think the chances of Woods having a bad game are far less than what we see with Hilton.
Jim, got any other questions in the chat room?
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff here. Let's see. Black Austin. he needs 3 of these running backs, but he didn't say whether it's PPR. So we're going to answer it like it's PPR. Sorry, guys. But 3 of these running backs, David Johnson, Aaron Jones, Gus Edwards, or Jeff Wilson. I'll be honest. If it's PPR, it's pretty easy for me. I'm taking Gus Edwards out.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going the same way there. Byron Leftwich, he's made David Johnson fantasy relevant again.
For the most part. It's still not exactly what we were hoping for. But he definitely getting him more involved again. But he's been a little off the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's got to be a little hesitation there.
Getting vultured by Chase Edmonds for a pair of scores. That's a killer.
Again, week 13, I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy by the NFL coaches to kill fantasy footballers. I mean, look at the list of some of the guys that had such big games last week. I made a list because it was making me crazy. Well, Zay Jones, of course, Rashad Higgins, Chase Edmonds, Levine Toilolo even had 13 fantasy points at tight end. Are you kidding me? Jerron Brown had 2 touchdowns. Dante Pettis had 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, come on, guys. It's a conspiracy, I tell you.
It's just how he drafted it, Jim, right? He said, I'm going to go and I'm going to get Zay Jones and Levine Toilolo at tight end late, and I'll be set for the playoff push.
Didn't Zay Jones get naked and jump off a hotel balcony or something in the offseason?
Yes.
Did he? I don't even remember that at all.
But yeah, cops got called to some hotel somewhere, and like him and his brother or somebody were he's butt naked running around a hallway, and they're like, "What the hell's going on, man?"
Well, I mean, I can't really speak to that. I've been known to do things like that in my past, so I can't really speak to that.
Well, hey, let's just look at Zay Jones quickly. If we are picking guys up off the wire, he's the only game in town now in Buffalo. They let go of Kelvin Benjamin today. Andre Holmes is gone. He's had a couple of good weeks, scored a few touchdowns. If you're dying and you need somebody, shit, there you go. There's the number 1 in Buffalo for you.
Yeah, really. All of a sudden steps up. I mean, just opportunity alone, he should get a better chance. But here's the other side of the coin. Again, you know, when you see a number 2 all of a sudden get the chance to be the number 1, half of them step up, the other half don't. Because all of a sudden now they're seeing the better defensive players and things like that. And, you know, some of them just can't hack that.
That falls nicely into our next question. If you have a running back choice and you've made it this far in your fantasy football, do you go with Lamar Jackson or do you go with the Buffalo quarterback, Josh Allen? Brian, who do you go here?
I think you have to go with Josh Allen. He's a better thrower. Geez, Louise, I can't believe I'm saying that. But well, he's playing the Jets, so I think he's going to have a really good opportunity there. Whereas you could say, oh well, Lamar's playing the Chiefs, he's going to be able to throw it a lot, but I just don't see him with the skill set or the offense to be able to put together enough long scoring drives, at least through the airs. I'm going to go with Allen. I think he can complete some balls and matriculate the ball down the field, if you will, against just a really bad dumpster fire Jets defense.
I'm still sick watching Josh Allen with his big arm come up short on that throw last week. Like, I get it, he ran. I get it, it's outside, but I'm like, how the hell did he come up short? But it's Josh Allen. You talked about it. He's the better thrower here. And here's the crazy part, Jim. And I'll say it, and most people won't. Lamar Jackson wasn't a first-round pick. I'm convinced. I wasn't sure prior to the season. After watching him play now, this kid's a fantasy enigma. He's never going to throw enough to be in the NFL.
Look, he's a young kid. You can't say they can't change his defects. I've been saying it forever. He was not ready to be a starter in the NFL just because he still has a lot of holes in his game. And, I didn't think he was a first-round pick. I didn't think any way in hell he should be a first-round pick last year because he's still, in my eyes, a project. Sure, he can run, but we've seen other great running quarterbacks that had one good year running, and then as soon as defense figured out that's all they could do, shut him down totally. Speaking of the one that whose name gets brought up every single time there's a quarterback talk out there. How come he's not playing in the NFL? Colin Kaepernick, just because he knelt down, he's not playing. Well, that's a part of it, folks. But the other part of it was he sucked as a passer. He absolutely sucked as a passing quarterback. So that's a big reason too.
I'm going to retract.
I'm
retracting my comment, Brian, before I get to you. Lamar Jackson's not a first-round pick as a quarterback in the NFL. This is nothing but the Tim Tebow thing all over again, where you have to change your whole offense for this guy, and he can't throw the ball. But I think Lamar Jackson could be Hines Ward. I think he could play wide receiver. So I'm going to say as a quarterback, he's not a first-round pick.
Yeah, it gets dicey there because, he is a quarterback. You took him in the first round. His agent's going to say you have to pay him as a quarterback down the line, not as a gadget player, unless you completely turn him like next season. Look at last week. He completed 12 passes for 125 yards against a really bad Atlanta secondary, right? So, what are you going to do? If he doesn't run one in, he's kind of worthless. And I'll flip back. Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL. He's 1,000% being blackballed. And if people want to tell me that Josh Jackson can keep getting signed to be backup quarterbacks and whatnot, Kaepernick is totally getting screwed by these,
See, I don't think so. Because I'll take the situation here. There isn't a backup quarterback that has a Nike commercial in the NFL. You don't want your backup quarterback having a Nike commercial and being a distraction in the locker room. So Colin Kaepernick put himself in a position that he wanted to be in, and he wants to be a celebrity, and he doesn't want to be a football player.
Well, does he want to be a celebrity? If somebody came to you and they said, hey, we're going to help you promote your cause and we're going to pay you X amount of $millions to do it, are you going to do it? Absolutely. And could he doesn't have to be a backup quarterback. Mark Sanchez is starting games in the NFL this week.
I knew somebody was going to go there.
Come on. And then I heard this bullshit from the Kansas or the Redskins that, we'd have to come in and change our whole offense around for Kaepernick, this and other. What are you talking about? You bring him in. He's an NFL quarterback. He's not a moron. He could learn the same 5 plays that Mark Sanchez knows.
Well, the big difference there was Mark Sanchez has worked with a few of those coaches on the Redskins already.
It looked it.
Well, I'm not talking about his talent or what he can do, but he knows those coaches. Those coaches know him. So, there is a little bit of that there. I'm not saying it's right. And maybe he is being blackballed, but hey, you know what? If you're told to do something by the owner of your company, if you work somewhere and you don't do it, we all get the same treatment. Why should he be special? They told him not to kneel. He kneeled.
No, well, his Players Association said it's fine with kneeling. The NFL wasn't totally against him kneeling, but behind the scenes, these guys are, look at it's a bunch of old
told
rich
him
white.
not to do it. The guys that pay his paycheck for the company he works for told him not to do it.
But again, there's two ways to look at it. Is it his right? Can he go out there and freely protest? Absolutely. But does he have to accept the consequences, therefore, if he does that?
And I
also see that side of it too. And yes, he does. Eric Reed got back into the NFL after kneeling with Kaepernick, right? He came back finally this year. He's playing for Carolina. And then he's definitely getting screwed over. Have you heard? He's been randomly drug tested after every single game. There's less than a 1% chance that a random drug test picks the same player 8 weeks in a row.
See, I don't even like this debate because I think it's wrong. I think that what Colin Kaepernick is that he's a celebrity that brings negative press to the backup position. And I think it's the exact same thing as why Tim Tebow's not in the league. And Tim Tebow didn't bring negative press, but he brought religion into the NFL, and people were uncomfortable with that. I think it's backup quarterback, not knowing your role, and just sit there behind the starter, and teams don't want the distraction. That's what I think the problem is.
But would he be a backup quarterback? I mean,
every team except the Redskins.
I mean, I'm looking up and down this thing. Could he start over? I'll just run through it. Tampa Bay needed a guy. Miami's a dumpster fire. Let's see. Keep moving down here. Cleveland got a guy finally. San Francisco has nobody.
Well, that's because
you're starting Jeff
their
Driscoll.
top two guys got hurt. But
he's already done the San Francisco thing.
Yeah, right.
No, not Cincinnati. I'm sorry. It's Cincinnati. It's starting Jeff Driscoll. The Raiders.
I get
stink.
what you're saying, but he's reaping, what he sowed at this point. And again, if you're asking me if the owners all got together and said, let's not bring him back, yeah, that's absolutely possible. Look, I believe they have a conspiracy against fantasy football. Why wouldn't they have a conspiracy against black people?
Yeah, they're going to keep him out, and I'm interested to see what happens with the lawsuit that he has, because he has a conspiracy lawsuit against the NFL. Yeah. So
he's going to win. He's going to follow into Donald Trump's football. He's going to win $1.
Oh yeah, we could bring that idiot in. He could bankrupt the league too.
But all the historians out there, Donald Trump sued the NFL when he was part of the USFL for collusion and keep him out, and he won $1 in court.
This brings up. Did you guys see
the deal?
The XFL is starting up. They have Andrew Luck's dad is actually the commissioner of the XFL, yes. And they're putting teams in big NFL cities, some of them playing at NFL stadiums. And there's also this American something or other football. What do you guys think about these new leagues? I don't think there's a chance in hell they survive unless the NFL somehow backs them as like an alternative minor league in the offseason. But I mean, there's a fantasy opportunity here in these new leagues that I'm sure we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah. I already know Scott Fish is already starting up leagues for I forget are they the AFF or the AAF? I always forget. I know there people are already talking about fantasy leagues. Look, there's people out there, myself included. I wouldn't mind watching some football in the off season from the NFL. I don't like baseball. I don't like basketball. I don't like hockey. Give me some more football, even if it's second tier football. Heck, I remember plenty of times watching arena football.
I watched arena. I've gone to games. I watched the USFL because they had stars back in the day, right? They had Herschel Walker. They had Doug Flutie. They had Steve Young. I don't think a league can have those guys, Jim. But I agree with you. I think if they really, really promote the gambling aspect, that's going to bring viewers. If all of a sudden they get fantasy in, like Jim's talking about Scott Fish, I think people will watch.
Well, what about this? We're looking at the NFL right now. What's the biggest issue for unwatchable games? It's teams don't have quarterbacks. That's what we were just talking about.
Well, hey, one of them can sign Colin.
Great. I hope he does. So you've got 32 teams in the NFL. We don't have 32 good quarterbacks. How the hell are you going to get good quarterbacks in 2 other leagues?
Yeah, but you got to remember that the quarterback level of play will be the same as the defensive level of play.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be like watching like scab football. I think no one's going to come after the XFL. I remember when it first came out, everybody watched that first game And then after that, they go, oh my God, this football sucks. So we're going to stop watching. And then the ratings just went down into the toilet. Now it's totally going to happen again.
But I think the XFL try to combine wrestling and football, where this is
all
gone
those crazy rules.
Yeah, this has gone out of their way to try to stay away from the wrestling, and it's a legitimate football. Now, I would like them to take one step further and really promote that we don't hitting defenseless receivers, no penalty in this league, and try to go back to old school football.
Yeah, they're gonna have to swing. It's gonna be different rules, and like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's all going to have to be about fantasy and gambling. That's the hook.
Yep.
Especially in the off season.
Okay, guys, I got one more. Okay, maybe two more questions in the chat room I'm trying to catch up with here. But Black Austin has one more for a standard league. He wants to know which one of these receivers needs two of these receivers. Stephen Ridley, Edelman, Sutton, DJ Moore, or Allen Robinson in a standard league. That's a tough question. Wow. Hard to like Ridley just because he just pops in and out and really hasn't done much of late of note. So I think I'd take him right out.
Jim, you confused the shit out of me. You said Stephen Ridley, and I'm going, what the team?
Man, I told you guys I need some freaking sleep. As soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to sleep. Calvin Ridley, Edelman, Sutton, DJ Moore, and Allen Robinson. Of course, DJ
it's
Moore
easy for me.
The DJ Moore threw up the dud last week. I expect Allen Robinson, I'd love to see him come back. I mean, he had that one monster game, and then, with Trubisky back, if Trubisky plays this week, I'd go with Allen Robinson, and I'd go, scoring wise, you need to score and stand. I hate standard leagues. I think I'd go with Allen Robinson and DJ Moore, I think.
Yeah, I would go Allen. I go Allen Robinson because they're going to have to throw the ball, I think, 35 times at least. So we're going to get enough opportunities for Allen Robinson. So I think the Rams are going to put up 35 points. We're going to get there. I'm going to go Edelman, even though he's a guy that doesn't get in the end zone. I just look at, you mentioned Carolina wide receiver Moore. I liked him last week. He gets blanked. I think that we got an opportunity here, and you just hope Edelman gets in the end zone. They're going to score against the Dolphins. They already put 40 up against them last time they played. I'm going with Edelman and Allen Robinson.
I'm going to stick with Tony. I like those two guys. That's the two I'm going with. Give me Robinson and Edelman.
Okay, fair enough. Robinson and Edelman it is. Let's see. I think I saw one more. Maybe I missed it. No, maybe not. Okay, no, I guess we're all caught up.
All right, I got a question for Brian. Brian, I watched the Eagles, and now people are getting a little they're feeling a little better about the Eagles that play lately. But I got to ask you the question. If anyone out there has ever watched the Giants 30 on ESPN's 30 for 30, back when Parcells and Belichick was there, it was amazing. And it really tells you, and it really got a look that Belichick was the guy. He was the brains behind the whole operation, even when Bill Parcells was there. How much do the Eagles miss Frank Reich?
Not only Frank Reich, but John DeFilippo, who was their quarterbacks coach.
Too. Yeah, right.
So you've got two guys right there who became a head coach and an OC, who were, in your room, game planning, scheming week to week. Now he has Deuce Staley and this guy Mike Groh, who's their wide receivers coach last year, and you can just see that the game planning and the execution, it's not there this year for the Eagles. So if that was all Frank Reich, that guy should be coach of the year because of the way he's turned around the Colts and how the Eagles have just fallen off a cliff. And you can just tell that the scheme isn't tight. They're not fooling anybody anymore in Philadelphia. It's kind of just like the same old intermediate routes and, hope Wentz can make a play.
They're playing vanilla football.
Yeah.
So let's face it, they shouldn't have beat the Giants a couple of weeks ago. The Giants folded at halftime. Nobody will ever tell me that they wanted to win that game. There's just no way they want to win that game and Barkley gets 4 touches. Sorry, it just doesn't happen. Last week, the only reason they won was because they're playing a Washington team that's just decimated by freaking injuries all over the place. This team is not good. They're not going nowhere. I
could also spin. I agree with you. They're not. But I could also spin it that they lost outside of the blowout game. They lost every other game by one possession. They blew a 17-0 or a 17-point lead to the Panthers at home. and then they somehow lost a game where they had double-digit lead on Tennessee. So, they could have even more. They'd be in first place right now. Yeah, they'd be a game ahead of the Cowboys. But, the Eagles aren't going anywhere. As a fan, I just wish they'd lose out. I want the draft pick. Give me a top 10
That's what
pick.
I keep saying about the damn Giants, and they keep winning these stupid games.
I'm taking the Giants in Survivor this week.
God, I hate.
Wow.
If they win another game, I'm going to shoot my toe.
They're playing the Redskins.
I know, but I don't care.
That would be crazy. I agree with you, but I think it's a good call, Brian. I think it's a really good call. Now, I play all the fantasy sports, so I'm used to this. So I'm going to ask the other two guys. Yahoo has classified Jalen Samuel as a tight end and running back. For all the people out there that play fantasy baseball, you have players that have 2 position eligibility. Sometimes you have 3. What baseball does is if you play 20 games at that position in the prior year, you get an additional designation. Jim, in football, there's no rules to it. It's just a random thing that comes up every once in a while. How do you feel about this, Jim?
I think it's idiotic. If he had played a certain number of snaps at tight end, I get it. Usually that's the case if they play, in baseball, it's usually if he plays enough first base and enough third base, you can get him in both. But the fact of the matter is he's never played a snap in the NFL at tight end. He's a running back, was drafted as a running back, is used as a running back. They listed him as a tight end at the combine, and that's what they use as the reason to put him at tight end and running back now. I think it's ludicrous. But at the same time, if it's there, if people use him in the tight end this weekend, you can't bitch and moan about it because it's Yahoo doing it, and it's legal. They're saying it's legal.
Yeah, Marcus Colston had the same issue a few years back.
Yes, I forgot about that.
So I'm actually in a league where I picked up Jalen Samuels. I'm benching Gronk to play Jalen Samuels at my tight end because why the hell not? What's Gronk going to do for you? The only way you could get around it is if I saw this on Twitter and I kind of agreed. If a commissioner could get the league to agree, say he's not on a roster yet, you make the rule and go, this guy can only be a running back. But you got to get everybody to agree, and you're never going to do that.
I don't like that for the simple reason. Once the season starts, I don't like rule changes of any kind.
It is what it is, Watch him go out and put up a dud and get hurt in the first quarter, and then
right. Well, like I said, everybody was all over Ware last week, and luckily he just got you enough to where he wasn't a total dud, but nothing like what everybody thought. I think we may end up seeing the same thing with Samuel.
Here's the thing, folks. Don't play on Yahoo. They always do shit like this. Doesn't matter what the fantasy sport is. They're untraditional. They like to get their names and people talking about them. And this shit happens every year. If you have a fantasy league, do not play it on Yahoo.
I played one because somebody invited me to a league and I wanted to join it. But I don't like Yahoo myself. Okay.
Brian.
Well, Brian actually has to leave us because he's getting ready to do a special podcast that starts at 10 o'clock. Brian, why don't you put the link in the chat in case anybody wants to follow you over there?
Cool, I'll do that. Yeah, myself and Dwayne McFarland, if you follow us on fightingchancefantasy.com, we do a show called the Tuesday Night Hustle, and we couldn't do it last night. I was actually doing a Dom Perignon Moet Hennessy tasting for work, and Dwayne had his kids. So he said,
you poor man. You.
Yeah, I know, right? So I said, all right, we're going to do it. So if you go over to fightingchancefantasy.com, they got a podcast tab over there. Dwayne and I are going to be firing that up in a minute once I crack a beer and take a leak. Head over there.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and check us out over there. But thanks, gentlemen, and enjoy the rest of your week. Good luck making some cash this week in DFS.
Thanks, Bri. Okay, Tony, we got one more question in the chat room from John V. I'm going to call him because I can't pronounce his last name. Pick 3 in a PPR: Ingram, Michelle, Justin Jackson, and Sutton. Now, the biggest problem here is you got 3 guys that really aren't much in PPR, in Ingram, Michelle, and Justin Jackson. Not really pass catches there. But I kind of like Ingram this week. I know he rolled a dud last week, but I kind of like him this week. I do expect Michelle to bounce back. And I think I'd probably go Sutton over Jackson. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's where I don't love this group because what you mentioned with the PPR. And at first I was going to leave Sutton out, right? And then we talked about the Denver wide receivers. He's at least going to get some targets. You would think down the goal line, he probably has the best chance to get in. So I like Sutton a little more than Jackson.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. I mean, I think Jackson has a good game, but he's going to need to get into the end zone to give you a good PPR performance. If he doesn't do that, then you're going to be screwed, and you're going to be pissed off that you started him. At least with Sutton, you know you're going to get some passes to him. They really don't have much choice but to keep trying to feed him. So I think you have much choice there. And Ingram and Michelle, I take both of them over Jackson this week.
Now,
Okay, go
Jim,
ahead.
one of the questions that Brian threw out was streaming quarterbacks for people out there that are in their fantasy playoffs that have something they don't like. And I went through the whole situation, and there isn't really anyone that I come up with. And I think the number one guy I would use would be Josh Allen against the New York Jets that isn't a routine starter. Jags and Titans, Kessler or Mariota. I don't want Mariota against that defense, and Mariota's played. I mean, we don't kill him as much as we should. Panthers and Browns, Cam Newton, I think everybody's got him. They'll play him. Falcons and Packers, we all know Ryan and Rodgers. Ravens and Chiefs, Lamar Jackson. You know what? The great thing about Lamar Jackson is you're always going to get a decent performance because all those rushing yards, whether he can throw or not. But in this game, I'm concerned because they'll be behind, but he'll still run.
Yeah, but my concern is that there's still a good chance that Flacco gets some play in this, especially if they get behind, to try and bring them back. And that's what scares me the most. And, for me, if it comes to Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen this week, I think I'm going to take Josh Allen because he is the better quarterback. He's got over 200 yards rushing last 2 weeks.
I agree with you. Patriots and Dolphins. Tannehill, the Patriots defense has played better lately. They got to the quarterback. I talked about the beatdown they put on the Dolphins last game there. What do we think of Tannehill this week against the Pats?
Man, I am not a Tannehill guy. I've never been a Tannehill guy. Amendola's hurt again. I don't know if I could do it. I think for me, the guy I really like this week, that's not really a consistent starter for anybody that I do like is Baker Mayfield. He's playing some good football since they made the change.
And Panthers secondary is not very good.
Yeah, really, not very good at all. And I mean, he had a terrible start last week with the interceptions in the first half, but man, he really turned it around in the second half and started playing some good football. And
he finished with 389, right?
Yeah, I think 397 actually.
Yeah.
He threw the ball a lot, and man, I really like him this week against the Panthers. And then after the Panthers, he's got the Broncos and the Bengals. So if you want a streaming quarterback for the next 3 weeks that, is probably out there, Baker Mayfield is that guy for me.
All right, I got one guy to ask you about, and you know about this guy. What about Eli versus the beat-up Redskins?
Who knows? Like I tell everybody, I never bet for or against Eli. I never draft Eli. None of that stuff because, look, we don't know how good Eli is going to be until he throws his first pass. It's as simple as that. If he comes out with his first pass and it's 5 feet behind the guy, you're done. If he comes in and throws a zip pass right to a guy in stride, he's going to have a decent game. And beforehand, I could never bet on Eli, and I never draft him.
There you have it. That's WTF Fantasy Football. Jim, where can everybody talk a little football?
Hey, well, you guys can come join us at the Fantasy Football Talk group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, look for Fantasy Football Talk or look for my name, Jim Day, and search me out and join. I'll let you in. We got a lot of great people in that group, and after we had a little bit of a bout of some snarky guys and getting in there, they're all gone now. So we really seem to have calmed down. It's a nice, good group. A lot of great discussions each and every day. Questions being answered by so many different people. It's really good. And then, of course, the FNTSY network. You can catch me there 7 days a week now, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 with the Fantasy Football Frenzy. Saturday with Weekend Fantasy Update with Joe Galena from 1 to 4. Sunday morning with Mike Blewett and Scott Engel for Fantasy Game Day Live from 8 to 10. And then Sunday night with Scotty again with Fantasy Rewind from 8 to 10. So 7 days a week, you can catch me over at the FNTSY.
Jim Day absolutely getting it done. People, we're going to go. We'll see you next week. Hasta la vista.
Good night, all. We'll talk to you later. Go get them in week 14.